Do you miss Chinese takeout? One of the things that we used to love was General Tso's chicken, and I figured out how to do it with tofu. So to make General Tso's tofu, you have to start with tofu. And I know you're probably wondering, but what are we looking at here? This is my fancy schmancy way of pressing tofu. So let me just break this down for you. You want to use some weight. I prefer Hunt's no salt added crushed tomatoes. They're large, they add heft. On top of that, a nice big cast iron pan. Some of this will make more sense as we go along. Then I have a towel that also has paper towels on it. And inside is my tofu cut into slabs. Now this is just one block of tofu that I cut in half, then I cut in each half into 2 more slices, making roughly evenly sized slabs. It was frozen before we started. I find freezing the tofu, then thawing it out before you press it, gives a more meat-like texture. It makes it a little bit firmer when you use it. But since my tofu is already ready, I'm just gonna set it to the side. But this is the first thing you wanna do, is get your tofu pressing. It only needs about a half an hour or so it works really well while you're doing everything else. I'll just get this out of the way. If you're not sure what General Tso's chicken tofu or the meal itself is, it's a sweet, spicy dish, usually served with some sort of a crispy fried meat-like product, or in our case, tofu, with this sauce that is just, like I said, sweet and spicy. It's a wonderful sauce. Lots of chilies, lots of spices, and it's served usually over rice with broccoli. The next step, though, is we want to prepare that broccoli. I have it already in my steamer basket. Let me just show you. It's just cut up into little florets. I am using raw broccoli, fresh broccoli, however you want to say it. There's a reason. I like that nice al dente texture. If you really wanted to, you could use frozen broccoli, but it's just gonna be a little bit mushy. It's not gonna be quite the same. So try to use fresh broccoli whenever possible. It also is coincidental that this is part of this dish, like traditionally, as traditional as General Tso's can be since it was invented in America. But it's coincidental that broccoli is in here because it's a really, really, really healthy thing to add to a dish. But anyway, I have a pot of water going on the stove, heating up. We will put this in the pan in a little while. General Tso's wouldn't be General Tso's without the sauce. So let's work on the sauce next. I have half a cup of, this is our vegetable broth. It's just made from, cuttings and scraps. We have a video on it. And then this is sweet chili sauce. Now, keep in mind, there's a million ways to make this General Tso's sauce, and there's really no true way to make it since it's just an invention. It's not really a traditional Chinese or Asian dish at all. It's actually very American. Sweet chili sauce, in my opinion, seems to work really, really well. I know some people do it with tomato sauce, some people do it with ketchup, all sorts of things. It's all good. Do it however you like. To this, I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of soy sauce. This is low sodium soy sauce. I like the low sodium stuff because, we have so much sodium in our diet already. Don't need to add more. And this is already a very sodium rich dish because of that. So, hey, you know what? If you can save a couple milligrams of sodium, let's do that. Going to add a tablespoon of rice wine vinegar. I'm going to add a tablespoon of hot chili paste. Now this is an Asian product. It's we'll have a link to it if we can in the description. But if you don't have the hot chili paste, feel free to just put in a teaspoon to a tablespoon of red pepper flake if you really wanted to. I wouldn't do hot sauce so much. I've seen it done, but I think there's a little other ingredients in there that might be a problem. To that, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of garlic powder and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Now, cornstarch is our thickener here, so I want to make sure I get it all in there. And then I'm gonna mix it around using a whisk. I wanna break up any clumps that are happening because they're already happening. I wanna make this nice and smooth. Now, if you order General Tso's chicken in a restaurant, like a Chinese takeout place, it's gonna be this bright red color. And I got news for you. The way they do that is most likely from food coloring. I'm not gonna be adding any food coloring to this. I'm gonna keep it au naturel, so to speak. And we're just gonna mix that up real good. And then set that to the side. All right, back to the tofu. At this point, your tofu should be pressed, it should be dry, it's ready to go. So I'm going to put it into 2 piles, cut it right down the middle, carefully so I don't tear anything, and just like that. And then let me turn these. I'm gonna cut it down the middle again, and then each side. What we're doing, we're making cubes. Tofu cubes. Okay, next step is we're going to give these that crispy outer edge and coating that is what you're really looking for in a General Tso's tofu. So over to the stove. Okay, something really important. I am using a ceramic coated nonstick pan. Super important. I found this to be the absolute best way to brown up that tofu. So let me show you exactly how I do it. It's really, really simple. I have my pan set to medium. This is 5 on my stove, which goes to 10. And I'm going to grab some of our tofu chunks and start placing them on. You can hear just a little bit of a sizzle as they hit the pan. This pan is already hot. You don't want it super hot because you don't want to burn them, but you do want it to have some temperature to it already. It also helps to have your tofu in roughly uniform sizes. It keeps it from being too weird to cook, and you want it to cook all at roughly the same rate. Mine aren't exactly uniform, but I'll survive. It'll be okay. It usually takes a couple of rounds to get them all done, but there we go, they're all in. Usually after like a minute or so, I like to give a little flip and see how they're doing. Oh, we're starting to get a touch of color. See that one right there? But not too much. Let me put that back. Maybe raise the heat just a little bit. I'm at almost 6 now. Don't like it to be too hot because again, you don't want to burn them, but you don't want it to take so long to cook them that you dry it out either. So you only want it to be like a couple minutes per side to really get them browned up and a little bit crispy. And no, I did not add oil to this pan. There is no vegetable broth in this pan. There is no anything in this pan. It is a dry pan with the tofu in there, and that's it. I have found this method to be very effective. So long as you pressed your tofu properly, it gives a great coating on the outside. If you didn't press it, it's gonna take a lot longer to get that browning because there's too much liquid. Let's give a check on the middle here. We're starting to see some brown. Oop, not quite on that guy. I'll just put them all back. Sometimes the ones in the middle will cook a little bit faster. Just, different pans work different ways. So I try to move everybody to the middle sometimes if possible. See, like that. I usually end up using a utensil and my fingers to flip them over. Just seems to work really well. What I want to point out though is notice how they're not sticking in the pan. That is the key. This is why I really like this particular pan. I started using it to do this and it works so well. I'm sure other nonstick pans will work as well. I just wanted to point out that the ceramic one that I'm using actually really works for this beautifully well. The amount of browning that you get is really totally personal preference. Some people like it super crispy, some people want just a little bit of crispy. It's all up to you. I just like to see a little bit of color on them, something like that, and I'm gonna start flipping them over. There we go. Yes, it's a little bit fiddly to have to flip each one, I get it. It's not my favorite thing to do either, but it is important. You wanna at least get a few of the sides evenly coated before just wantonly flipping it all over the place. And basically wash, rinse, and repeat. Keep doing that until all sides are coated and nice and brown. I'm gonna do that with all the tofu and we'll be back with you once that's done. All right, so I've done pretty much all the sides of these guys. They're still in the pan, but what I do have is a little bowl on the side here, and I just like to dump them off as they get done, and that way I can start on the next course, get more of them going in the pan. There we go, part 2 already in the pan. It normally takes me about 2 courses to get through an entire block. And yeah, I do put more in the pan like I did this time. It's just easier and quicker. It's just harder to flip, and it was, I wanted to show you guys on video, so I didn't know if it would be easy or not. Anyway, cook up all of your tofu. Okay, once I get them all pretty well done, I just throw them back in the pan for a quick minute, see if I missed anything. Altogether this time, looks like I did pretty good. So I'm just gonna dump these back into my bowl as best I can. And now I'm gonna turn off the heat because I want this pan to cool down. Trust me, the next step where you add the sauce, you do not want this pan to be super hot. So I'm actually even gonna set it off to the side, let that cool off for a while. Let's move over to our broccoli. All right, I have a pan of hot water going. This is a pot. It has just a couple inches of water in it. It's on medium. I'm gonna turn it up to high, and that should start boiling. And what I'm gonna do is take that steamer basket of broccoli and place it right on top. I happen to have a pot where that steamer basket fits on perfectly. How long? 10 minutes max, not even all that long. So let me set a timer and go. That's it, that's how we do the broccoli. What I want to do now, I have my pan. It is off the heat. The burner is actually off, but this thing's still a couple 100 degrees. It's warm enough, but the cornstarch needs to be activated by heat. So we want this to cool a bit, but not totally. So I'm holding it off the heat. I'm going to dump my sauce right in there. And now I can turn the heat on to, I'd say about medium. I don't want to go too far. What I want to do is just heat this up so that the cornstarch can activate and thicken the sauce. Turns into sort of like a glaze. Trust me, if your pan is too hot when you pour this in, you're gonna burn it because there's some sugars in here, and take it from me, I've done it that way. It was less than effective. I really didn't like it at all. So I wanna make sure that I stress that your pan should be cooler than say 200 degrees when you add the sauce. Now, a lot of the ingredients for the sauce are refrigerated, so they're gonna be a little bit chilly when they hit the pan. That'll help too. Now, if we time this just right, the tofu and the sauce will be ready at about the same time that the broccoli is done steaming. Starting to thicken up a little bit. All right, there's some boilage happening. You can see it getting thicker in that area. I just want to keep that idea going. Let it thicken up some. You can see it's starting to thicken up. See how it leaves a trail in the pan? That's what we're looking for. Careful though, when this splatters, it's napalm. It's gonna stick to you and burn. Almost there. I can tell the texture is almost exactly what I want. Just want to cook it another minute or so, get it just a little bit thicker. See that nice thickness to it? It's like a glaze. That's what we're looking for. Now that we got that temperature that we want and that thickness that we want, I turn the heat off. I'm going to take my tofu and drop them right back in there. And you want to quickly try to coat them all with that glaze. It's okay if there's a little extra sauce. It's good on the rice. Tofu will soak some of it up, and you do not want to let this sit too long because we worked really hard to make that nice crispy outside coating, right? Well, if you leave it in this too long, that coating is just going to be gone. It's going to turn mushy and soft, and you really don't want that. Nobody wants mushy General Tso's tofu. We have about 2 minutes left on our broccoli, but you know what? I'm going to call it. That is done. So I'm going to turn off the heat on the broccoli, and let's plate. Now this is generally served over rice. Today I'm going to be using a shirataki rice, which is kind of interesting. It's made just like shirataki noodles. It has basically no calories. I mean, look at that, 2 servings per container. So this entire bag has 10 calories. It's mostly just fiber. So it doesn't add any nutritional value, but it does add a little bit of bulk, and it does give the feeling of rice. However, if you wanted to use brown rice, white rice, or any kind of rice, go for it. Here it is right here. You just rinse it out a little bit in the sink, and we have it right there. I'll put about half in there. It doesn't even require cooking. You just put it right in, and look at that. It looks like rice. Take some of our General Tso's tofu. The smell is incredible, guys. And then some of our steamed broccoli. Put that along the side. There we have it, a beautiful bowl of General Tso's tofu. Let's see how this tastes. All right, time to dig in. Got a nice little sample here. Let's get a little bit of that rice, piece of tofu, and some broccoli, all in one bite. Check that out, looks amazing. Probably really hot too. This is Happy Dance quality food right here, people. This is amazing. So good. I've made this a bunch of times and I keep perfecting the recipe every single time. Just gets a little bit better. The shirataki rice is actually really good in this. You don't notice it as shirataki. It comes across as rice. But like I said, you can use regular rice if you want to. The tofu has just a little bit of that crispy coating left. Works so well. That sauce is everything. Makes this work. Now, one of the reasons why I'm using shirataki in this in particular is because the sauce does have a lot of sugars in it. So that adds quite a bit of carbs, could, affect my blood sugars. So by using the starchless rice, I essentially cut that back and make it more normal. But I gotta take another bite. This is amazing. Fantastic, and it's ready really quickly. If you have thawed out tofu already, just give it a little bit of a press and you have it ready to go. Broccoli, some rice of whatever kind, mix a few ingredients together and you have the sauce. It goes together very, very quickly. I'd say an hour tops and you can make this dish. Super, super easy and way delicious. I'm gonna have the graphic here that shows you all of the macros of this and the nutrient values, just so you can get an idea of what to expect. And Derek and I are gonna go eat some lunch because it's early in the day right now.